Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Sunday Satanists. Today we are going over my personal life, Nicky, as being raised in a very, very Christian community, but being part of the LGBT community, and kind of how that has negatively affected my life in general. So once again, I am joined with my lovely friends,
Trin.
and...
Fatal.
There we go. It's always like such a nice long pause. Fatal did just wake up, so I mean, hasn't gotten coffee into her system, and hasn't gotten weed in her system either.
Yeah, no, I'm weed free.
Boom.
Until you move, probably, at least, right?
Yeah, and then I'm gonna be stoned all the time.
But you should grow your own.
Yes.
At least medical grade marijuana. Can you grow your own?
Yeah,
If you
I
have a
can legally,
license
yeah.
for it.
You can have up to 4 plants here in Ontario now.
Oh, sweet. Anyways,
Yeah.
so, I'm just gonna... I have no idea where to start.
The day you
Except...
conceived.
Yeah.
It was a dark, stormy night.
I have no idea what day it was. I don't want to figure out when I was conceived.
Just count back.
I don't
10
want to
months.
think about what my parents... I know what my I don't want to think about what they were doing.
Count back 10 months.
I don't want to. Anyways. So, I grew up in a very, 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 very Christian community. What I mean by that is, I was in the middle of Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan in itself is a very, very conservative province. But then I grew up in a tiny town within that conservative province, which makes it even more conservative.
Sorry.
And then, on top of that, that very tiny, like, when I say tiny community, I mean literally you could walk from one end of the town to the other in, like, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Like, well, it's a really, really tiny town. And so I grew up in this small little town, and this small little town was Mennonite. Mennonite just pretty much means, like, super Christian. I have no idea how else to really describe
Is
it.
Is it like another branch, like Protestant, that kind of thing?
Kind of. Like, they're really, really conservative. And they're very traditional.
I
What the hell is
literally
that,
thought Mennonite was, like, close to, like, Amish.
I'm sorry, like, every time you say Mennonite, I just keep thinking of Mennonite from Kirby. Like, that's all I think of.
Yeah. But, so no, they were, like, super little Mennonite community. Like, we did have a high school, and we did have an elementary school, but there was, like, maybe 500 kids in total between the two. Like, I'm not even kidding. So, it was very small. And in general, so being brought up in a Christian family, being a kid, you trust your parents so much. And you trust that what they say is just true. It's infallible.
Well, you have to.
Yeah, it's like, that's just what you believe. So, I don't think my mom even knew all that I was being brought up to believe. I don't think either of my parents knew all that I was being brought up to believe, just because they were bringing me up Christian. Like, I don't ever remember my mom ever telling me, specifically, being gay is bad, we hate gays. But I just always knew that it was bad. It was one of those things where you just always knew for some reason, but you never remember somebody specifically telling you.
It could be like you could have just picked up, like, around your surroundings, like, oh.
Exactly. It's
like,
just one of those things where you just know, but you don't remember anybody ever telling you.
Yeah, like, it could have been, like, two adults talking about it and just say, and it's just the tone of the voice and you knew.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it also has to do with that typical line, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Eve.
Yeah, but I never even remember hearing that until I was older.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so that's why I don't remember specifically anybody ever telling me it was bad. I just remember knowing it was bad, just knowing it was bad.
Right.
And along with that came other things. Like, I never remember anybody ever telling me as I was growing up that it's bad to get a sex change.
Yeah.
Like, I never remember anybody ever telling me that, but yet at the same time, I just knew it. Like, I'd hear about it in the news, and as a kid, my reaction would be like, ew, that's disgusting. Why would anybody want to do that to themselves?
Yeah.
And now here I am. Karma's a bitch.
You're eating your words now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm eating my words now.
Oh, no wonder that's so warm behind my back. Fuck. There's a plug-in behind me.
Oh yeah, the plug-in's back there.
What the fuck is that?
So, anyways, I just knew. Like, all this stuff, I just knew. And I think probably the time that I was really starting to question myself was I had a really, really close friend. She was raised in a family that was, I guess, atheist. They didn't believe in the Bible. It seemed like they didn't go to church or anything like that. And it seemed like she, in my eyes at that point, I was like, oh, she's never even been given the opportunity to know.
Oh, Lord, Nikki.
Yeah. And which, I honestly, even to this day, I thoroughly agree that everybody should be able to go and research and should be given be presented with the information of religion.
Yeah.
And if they want to believe in it, they can. But at this point, I was just like, oh, she's never even really been given the option. So I tried and to tell her like, oh, you should come to church, blah 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 blah. And I did. I got her to come to church a couple of times, but it never really stuck with her. But through hanging out with her, I started to really question things. Like, for one, she was the person I was so innocent. I was so incredibly innocent when I was a kid. I didn't even think of swearing. I was like, if I swear, God will hate me. I have to be good.
I don't know if that's adorable or obnoxious.
That's it's a little bit ridiculous, but that's how I was. I was like, I can't even swear. God will hate me. So, like, and for a kid that has anxiety,
oh God, yeah,
stuff like that, like,
that's just not good.
Just being like, oh, God will hate me, like, I didn't dare do anything, and if anything, like, if I slipped up in any sort of way, I would be, like, in tears.
Oh.
Like, I would be in tears, and I'd be like, I'm going to hell! Like, yeah, I would be devastated if when I made mistakes. Like, I needed help. But anyway, she ended up getting me to swear. And I know that doesn't seem like anything big or whatever, but whenever I think back on it, I was like, no, I think that's kind of the start of everything. Yeah, she got me to swear, and she got me to realize they're just words.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's all they are. They're just words. We give them power. That's it.
Yeah. So,
anyway, me and her fell out of being friends shortly after.
Oh.
And that kind of sucked. That's fine. If she ever listens to this podcast, which I doubt, she'll know who she is when I mention this, but she's pretty, she calls herself a dancer at a nightclub. At least this is what I last heard. But honey, you're a stripper. You're a whore. Like,
No, they're entertainers, Nikki.
Well, like, okay, I get there's general strippers that are perfectly fine, but no. This place... No, this place is very much like, no, it's not just you're on stage and you're a safe distance away from the patrons.
So,
you're just on a tiny little pedestal right in front of them where their faces can, like, if they lean forward, their face is in your crotch.
It sounds like a brothel, then.
Yeah, and I've heard of stupid stories of her getting drugged and everything, and, like...
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's because you're stupid enough to accept drinks from these people.
Like, I mean, it's fine if you're working there and you're and you're happy to do it. I mean, okay, let me phrase that. It's fine if you're working there and it's a relatively safe environment and you're smart about it. Fine. But, yeah, like, don't be stupid and accept drinks and drugs and shit like that.
Well, yeah, she would get drugged because she didn't know. People would just be handing her drinks, and she'd just take it. And, yeah, next thing you know, she ends up being roofied.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's the last that I've heard of her. I don't know if she actually still works there or not.
Or if she's alive.
As far as I know, she's alive. I have, there's other people that I still keep in contact from back home, and none of them have said anything to me. So as far as I know, she's still doing fine. I kind of hope that she's gotten herself out of that situation because she deserves better in life. She honestly does. But oh my God, Trey. Okay, I'm just looking. I glance over at her laptop, and you know that meme about artists have 1,000,000 tabs open?
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's Trin's laptop right now. I am not even kidding. There's so many tabs you can't even see the first letter of every single tab.
To be fair, I'm clicking on the arts on my DeviantArt. These are not all fucking tabs I have on constantly. I'm just going through my 106 deviant pictures. Okay?
I can hear excuses.
Yeah, that's all it is, excuses. Anyways, so we fell apart. Me and her kind of went our own ways in high school and everything. We weren't we were enemies in high school. We would still friendly talk to each other and everything like that. And we kind of still had
talk.
Yeah, we still had similar friends. She hung out with certain people, and I would also hang out with certain people, and through those people we were connected, but it just seemed like we could never hang out with each other. We were best staying at casual acquaintances, pretty much. See you at school, say
Right.
hi, not be bitches to each other, kind of thing, right? So, anyways,
there's so many tabs that they can't all load properly.
so we fell apart, but grade 4 is when I started to have really, really big problems. And at this point, me and her were still friends in grade 4. But I had problems in the sense of I started to go through puberty before everybody else.
Ooh, fun.
It started at the end of grade 3, and by the time grade 4 started, this is the way it was. At the end of grade 3, I maybe needed a training bra.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
man.
But by the start of grade 4, so literally just the 3 months of summer, I was already an A cup.
Dude.
Yeah.
I think I started my, puberty in, grade 7.
Yeah.
Maybe 6.
Yeah. I was the first one.
That's never
And
fun.
so that just in general brought a lot of teasing, especially from the boys. Because, ooh, you have boobs now.
Titties!
So yeah, that just brought a lot of teasing in general, which did not feed well into my anxiety. This is when my anxiety spiked up, and I actually missed almost, I think, or just over 50% of grade 4.
Oh,
Because my anxiety was so bad that I was I cannot go to school.
I mean, on the bright side, it's just elementary. Who gives a shit? They'll just bump you up to grade 5 anyway.
No, they were actually talking about holding me back because I missed.
Wow.
But the only reason I still was able to move forward is because still at the end of everything, my test scores were still good.
Oh, that's good.
It's not that I was able to keep up or whatever. I was just
Smart enough to figure out the answer.
Yeah, I was able to learn quickly. Especially when it came to English and arts and anything like that. And when it came to social studies, which is our history, I had my dad, and my dad is obsessed with history. So me and him would sit there and we'd be talking, and he'd be explaining everything to me for hours, and he'd have reference books that I could use. I never had to go to a library when it came to doing history projects, because I could just walk down, go to my dad's room and just be like, hey, Dad, I need books on these subjects. And he'd probably have 10.
I mean, it's a pretty dope dad right there.
Like, I'm not even kidding. And he was always collecting more. Like, every single time, like, a new history book was published, he'd be like, I need it. And we're like, Dad, you have, like, 5 books on World War II already. Yeah, but this one's new.
Right, because the World War II has been changing so much in the past couple years.
So, anyways, he was good. He was good when it came to history and everything, and even if we did have to go to a library to pick up something on, like, say, like, a different civilization that he doesn't have a book on, he at least knew how to find it, and he would, like, be able to know by looking at the citations and everything if it was a good book or not.
That's good. I mean...
Yeah. So,
history
never gave me too many problems, because there was my dad that I could go to for that. English and art, I was just always naturally gifted at, except spelling. I'm very, very bad at spelling.
Oh, God.
And that comes with, apparently, like, it's suspected, I've never been officially diagnosed, but it's suspected that I have a bit of dyslexia. And so spelling, I'm really, really bad at. I have to use spell check constantly. But when it comes to the concept of English, I'm incredibly good.
Were you ever asked, to sound it out or to look up the word that you can't spell in the dictionary?
Yes, all the time, and it would drive me crazy.
Right? Fuck. Like,
I hated that. Oh my god.
It makes no sense.
I mean, if I can't spell the fucking word, how the hell am I supposed to look it up? I'm like, espresso. It's not. Alright, I don't know what part of the word. I'm spelling it wrong.
And the other thing that bothered me is that how I had a problem, and my one sister used to point this out, get mad at me so much, because I always had this problem where I would pronounce words wrong. And she would always get after me about it and just be like, no, it's pronounced this way. That's the bit of amusing thing, is I have one sister that she's very particular about grammar and everything, but when it came to English, English where you're, like, having to write poems, analyze stuff, and everything, she was very bad at it. But I was very good at it. But she was very particular about spelling and grammar and everything. So, I think I actually would not be nearly as good as I am if I didn't have her there constantly correcting me.
Though, I can't remember where I heard this from, or I don't remember if it was a test or a study, but, like, if you read a word or you mispronounce words all the time, it's probably because you taught yourself to read, you learn new words by reading instead of being told you need to learn this word. So, like, you'll read a book and be like, oh, look, it's a new word, and you, like, I can't remember how I used to pronounce tutorial in my head, but, like, it was way different, and so when someone said, it's pronounced tutorial, I'm like, no, it's fucking not.
No, for me, it was just, I was like, I'm sure there were some words I probably did that with, but for me, it was a lot of, like, say the word espresso.
Mm-hmm.
I, as a kid, would pronounce it espresso.
Yeah, okay, but that's, like,
I know that's a common thing, but I literally thought it was EX in spelling. Because every time I heard somebody say it, I swear I could just hear espresso, not espresso.
Dude, I straight up still thought that that's what it was.
No.
I'm learning something. Thank you.
Like,
it's ESS, espresso.
I thought it was just one S.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was 2
well,
S.
there. See, I'm educated. Thank you.
Espresso. She's gonna Google this now.
Yeah, it's 1 S and
it's 1 S and 2 S. Okay, there is both 1 and 2 S's.
But it's like, instead of saying would have, you wrote would have. Because when you say would have really quickly, it sounds like would have. Yeah. So it's, I mean, like, it's good that she taught, like, she got you after that, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's not really our fault.
Yeah, and, like, I generally was just like, oh, I mean, I'm sure as a kid there were times I got annoyed with it, but a lot of the time I was just like, oh, I'm thankful that my sister is actually correcting me, and, like, I actually am learning. Because I loved English. I really actually did love English. But anyways, so grade 4, I had, like, a lot of anxiety and everything, and I couldn't go to school because I was very, very, like, I had, like, anxiety to the point where I was getting physically sick all the time.
Oof. And
a lot of the time it was like, if if I hadn't convinced my mom to let me stay home, then, but I was still missing the day, it was because I had doctor's appointments to try and figure out what was wrong.
Yeah, and back then they wouldn't have realized that, no, it's anxiety.
Well, I have a little bit of qualms with that because my mom knew.
Okay.
Because my older sister, the same one that would get after me all the time about how me pronouncing stuff, had anxiety as well.
Ah.
And my mom had anxiety as well. My mom was on medication for anxiety. My sister got onto medication for anxiety in high school. But
So,
I didn't get anything.
because the doctors wouldn't let you?
Because my mom didn't seem to... I don't know if she didn't connect that it was anxiety or what it was.
Which is weird because she was
Because,
familiar with the
yeah, that's why I'm
concept.
like, I think she knew. It was just... I'm the third kid. At this point, she was just... I don't know. To me, growing up, it felt like she was done trying.
To be fair, when you have the third kid, you pretty much are at that point.
Yeah, like, the first kid, they eat dirt. Oh, God, what do I do? Rush them to the hospital. The second kid, they eat dirt. You clean their mouth out. Third kid eats dirt. You wonder if you have to feed them food.
Yeah.
Like,
First kid, and it's also like, first kid is the guinea pig, second kid is just kind of like, oh, fuck it, who cares, and third kid is what kid?
yeah, my sisters would argue, but at the same time, that was because I was Daddy's little angel.
Oh.
I was.
Aw.
I was a suck-up when it came to my father.
Yeah, I can tell just by of you talking about him.
Oh, yeah. But I was also that kid that, like, whenever I'd come over and I'd be like, Daddy! He'd be like, what do you want?
At least he knew you.
What?
At least he knew that about you.
Yeah.
See, I'm that kid now. I go home and I'm like, Daddy, and he's like, what do you want? I'm like, everything.
I'm poor. Give me money.
Love me, feed me.
You've already moved out of the house. I don't need to.
But I'm home now
Yeah,
again.
I'm like the second oldest in our family, and I'm the least needy one.
Oh, God.
So whenever I ask for something, I don't have that much trouble because I never ask for anything.
Yeah. So grade 5 came around and my mom was just like, you can't keep missing school anymore. I was like, yeah, I knew, I understood. I knew that, but it sucked. I had to get back into going to school every day. And that was really, really rough. And on top of that, what played into my anxiety is that was the first year I had a male teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, and up until then, like, they'd all been female teachers in my elementary school. But grade 5, it didn't matter what class I got put in, both of them were male teachers. And so I was very, very nervous. But I was very, very lucky in who I got. Because he taught me the one saying that I still use today when I start freaking out. And it's basically like, every single time he'd see me starting to panic or whatever, or having a breakdown, he'd just pull me outside of class, he'd talk to me, he'd see if there was anything that he could do to help me feel better. And honestly, a lot of the time there wasn't.
Well, I mean,
it's just one of those things, like, I'm just having a panic attack. You just have to wait for it to leave,
yeah.
right? But he told me the one saying that helped so, so much, which was, like, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So even if today fucks up, he never said this, but he was just like, pretty much like, so even if you screw up today, tomorrow is a whole new day.
Mm-hmm.
And
the sun will come out tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. So, and that helped me. So,
tomorrow.
I don't know if he realizes how much that helped me. And I don't want to say his name. Like, I would wish that if he ever heard this, he would know who he is.
We're talking about you, Mr. Burnanickel.
No, that's not his name, but, like, I wish I could say his name because I want to thank him. I want to thank him formally for how much he helped. But I don't think I ever, like, I don't know if he'd be okay with me saying who he is online, so.
Fair enough.
if you are a teacher that in grade 5 taught a little girl who broke down crying every time she sang "Oh Canada" in the morning because I was so full of anxiety, and you came from a rural town in Saskatchewan, thank you very much. I'm sure by all those details you'd be able to figure out who he is.
Turns out it's like 35 different teachers.
Oh god. But so that was that. Grade 6, by the time grade 6 came around, I was a little bit more balanced, but by this point I was feeling better because the other girls had finally started to go through puberty.
So you weren't the only one.
So I wasn't the only one. I still hated having boobs because they were still the biggest in the class.
Well, yeah.
But at least I wasn't alone. Like, I didn't have to take the brunt of the guys teasing.
Yeah.
So it got better. Grade 7, I had my first boyfriend. He was an angel. I was a bitch to him.
Alright, yeah, I'm not surprised by this.
So I feel very, very bad. Like, I am not kidding. He was a sweetheart. And, like, if you guys ever think about how sweet, like, the Weasley family boys are.
Oh no, Nicky, you didn't.
I did. That was him. And the thing is, he was a ginger even too. Like, he was a
Nicky.
Weasley. 100% a Weasley. And I just shat all over him. And I feel so bad for what I did. So I feel so bad. I feel so bad. You have no idea. If part of me is just like, if I could take that back, I so wish I could take that back.
Yeah, me too.
But anyways, so, yeah, I had my first boyfriend. We didn't last very long. I broke it off, but broke his heart and destroyed him. And somehow he was still sweet and still so nice to me. And we stayed friends until he moved away. And then I started to get bad anxiety again once in grade 8. Grade 9, by the end of grade 8 and pretty much all throughout grade 9, I was cutting myself. And, like, every time I'd have a panic attack, I'd cut myself because it would instantly stop the panic attack. It was like there was some weird...
Probably your body going, well, fuck, we have two things to deal with now, and the blood leaving the body seems to be more important.
No, that's the thing. I didn't cut myself to the point of bleeding.
Oh. So it was more of scat.
So you were scratching yourself.
It was a lot of scratching, and it was a lot of, like, anything sharp. Scissors, especially. Scissors were the easiest thing for me. Because I could keep them in my room, and my parents wouldn't be too suspicious. And I could take them, open them up, and, like, kind of saw it back and forth across my skin.
No.
And create this... Ooh, someone's growling.
Sorry.
And create this, like, really, really...
That would be my puppy. Sorry about that.
Ooh. Which one, Diamond or...
That's Ruby.
That was Ruby? So, but anyways, I'd create this really, really dark line on my skin, and it would really swell up, but because it wasn't, like, just a quick nick or anything, it would hurt more than if you'd cut yourself with a razor blade, right?
Oh, yeah. Because you're irritating the skin, essentially.
Yeah. So, it would hurt more, and it was that pain that I was seeking.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was just like, if I can express this pain somehow on the outside of my body, it leaves the inside of my body. That's how it was. Like, I would mentally get relieved. Like, mentally that pain would all of a sudden be gone, and it would be escaping on my wrist.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
So,
I mean, it's...
I did that a lot. And I started to get very, very angry. Like, everybody... Sorry, 15-year-olds are probably the worst, because they're the most... Like, 14 and 15-year-olds are the worst, because they're very, very moody.
They're volatile as hell.
Yeah. And so... And I was honestly, like, horrible. I was the worst of the worst. And it got to the point where, yes, I stole something from somebody in the school, and I got caught doing it.
Did you do it well?
No, because I got caught.
Okay.
If I did it well, I would not have gotten
Well,
caught.
no, because sometimes you can do it well, and then just shit happens.
No.
Okay.
I got caught. And so... But that led to... Now, this teacher, this principal in the school, wasn't the best. Not a lot of people liked him. My oldest sister didn't like him. My other sister did. She didn't find him a problem with him at all. But I didn't like him either, and my mom didn't like him, and my dad had no opinion. Because he's my dad. He was not involved in our lives all that much when it came to, like, personal stuff. So, anyways, I didn't like him, but I will give him credit for this. Through talking to me about why I stole this item, he did find out that I was cutting and self-harming. And so he took it as that, and then he asked me, like, do your parents know? I was like, yeah, my parents know, because my mom and dad had caught me. And I was like, yeah, my parents know. He's like, are you in counseling or anything? I was just like, no, they're doing nothing about it.
Ooh.
And that took him off guard. And I remember him, like, of course he called my mom, mostly, like, for 2 reasons. One was the fact that I got caught stealing something, so your mom has to, like, one of your parents has to come to the school.
Yeah.
And the second being, he wanted to talk to her about the fact that they know I'm cutting, and they're not doing anything about it.
Which is weird.
No, that's my parents.
I mean, that's still fucking weird.
It's not. But anyways, so he called my mom, and she came down, and I had to explain to her what was going on, and then he was talking to her about, like, okay, but do you also know that your kid is self-harming? And she admitted, yes, I know. He's like, and you haven't done anything about it? She's like, no, we haven't, because Nicky doesn't want to doesn't want to go to counseling, doesn't want to go get help. And this is where I'm just like, and he even said, he's like, yeah, of course. They're a kid that has been brought up in this society and in a household that they probably think that it's wrong to need to go get help.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another thing that honestly stems from the Bible for me. Stems from being brought up in a Christian community. Is that if I was unhappy, if I was upset, if I was chemically imbalanced or whatever, it was because my faith was failing. It wasn't anything to do with, oh, maybe there's just not a fucking God. It was to do with the fact that I was failing somehow. I wasn't doing something right. It was blame put all on me.
Yeah, it was your fault.
Yeah, so like you have,
turning it off.
so then I had to fix it. I had to fix it. If I turned to God, then everything would be fine. But everything was not fine. And so he got after her, just being like, this is where your role as a parent comes in. And you take them to counseling because your child needs it. So basically, he told me that I had to go to counseling if I wanted, like, basically with my options where I could get 2 out-day school suspension and an in-day suspension. Or I could get 3 out-day suspensions. Now, a 3 out-day school suspension goes on your permanent record.
Ah.
If I took the 2 out-day and the 1 in-day, then that condition came with I had to go to counseling. I had to go to the school counselor at least once a week. So, luckily enough, I wasn't a stupid enough teenager that I turned that down. So I took the 2 out-day, 1 in-day, and then I started seeing the counselor. And I started to feel better, because it was just, even though she couldn't prescribe me anything or whatever, it was somebody to talk to. it was a judgment-free place. And it helped. Now, it could have helped more if I was a lot more honest in my feelings, but I was a teenager.
No one's fucking honest about age.
But probably at this point, there were many things that had led me to basically be rejecting my faith. To be like, there is no God. One of them being, like, I started to... Trin's just moving around.
It's my fucking ankle. They pop when I stretch them out.
Oh no, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing like a bzzz, bzzz, bzzz.
Nobody's phone is going off and I don't hear it.
My phone went off once, but
Really
it does.
weird.
No, I don't know. Anyways, so I had started to, like, throughout the end of elementary, which for our town only went to grade 6, to the beginning of high school, which started in grade 7, and so on, I had really started to notice inconsistencies in the Bible. And I think one of the main things that hit me was our pastor that I had grown up with, he decided to retire. And we spent a few years just trying out different pastors, and so of course you're hearing different opinions about Christianity through them. And then we came across a pastor that, for the church, and for, probably I'd say just in general, for Christians, or for pastors as far as Christians go, at least in Saskatchewan, he was fairly young. Like, he still had kids in high school, so to have him have kids that were older and around my age, to me that was a younger man, especially to be a pastor. And then, of course, with that came a lot of different teachings. He became our, like, church's new actual pastor, and in all honesty, from what I remember, he was a very, very accepting liberal Christian. And so, but all of a sudden, he's teaching us these things that didn't make sense to me, based on previous teachings from our old pastor. In particular, I remember one of them being that our old pastor always said, you do not question God, like God is an absolute. But then this new pastor is telling us that God welcomes us to question him, welcomes us to challenge him, welcomes us to give him the opportunity to prove himself to us. And to me that made no sense. I was like, how can the same God be saying two different things?
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, because I was always brought up, if I question God, then that's a sin, and I'm going to hell. But, oh, Trin, you're not connected.
Oh, fuck.
So you can't hear Fado.
Oh, that's probably why I'm such an idiot. I forgot. I turned off Discord by accident. Sorry.
It's okay. She'll get back in a second. So yeah, I was just like, those are two different things being taught. And then throughout, there's other inconsistencies that I know of where the Bible seems to backtrack over itself all the time, and then there's just stuff where when you start looking at things, you're like, that makes no sense. Like the law that you can't wear mixed fabrics. And like that makes no sense. I was just like, that technically means every time I get dressed in the morning, I'm sinning. But according to the Bible, if I don't get dressed, yeah, but if I don't get dressed, I'm also sinning.
There's
So-
no winning.
You don't win, man.
Yeah, so it's just like,
you might as
so,
well
like,
just go die.
I can't win.
Which is also a sin itself.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
There's
if
no winning. We're born for sinning.
yeah, if I try and kill myself, then that's also a sin. Like, I just.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm alive, I'm sinning. Like, it just. And then, probably the most big defining thing for me was I realized that by Christian logic and by Christian faith, they think that innately a baby is already born in sin. And I'm like, that makes no goddamn sense. Because how can a baby be born in sin? It hasn't done anything yet.
It fucking breathed, man.
Like,
I mean, it was a parasite on their mom.
but that's not the baby's fault.
I know, that's
Like-
me just being an asshole.
So it's just like, it made no sense to me how this baby is a sin. So I think that's something that, like, that was one of the things that just, I was like, I'm done. There was a bunch of other stuff going on, and like, it wasn't until after I graduated that I found out that a whole bunch of insecurities and stuff that I had all had to be related to the fact that I didn't like my body, and I didn't like my body to the point of, like, I really actually just wanted to change it. Like, I wanted to get a sex change and everything. And so, and I mean, there's other stories of, like, one of my neighbors, he still, because of the town that we grew up in, he still struggles with the fact that he's gay.
Oof.
Like, he's told me he still has moments where he hates himself because of it.
Poor guy.
And it's like, I didn't get to talk to him when I went home this year, so I'm hoping that he's gotten better. But I was just like, that's the sort of damage that this community does. That's the sort of damage that having such heavy Christian beliefs in a community does, is kids grow up legitimately hating themselves. And that's something that nobody should ever have to go through. It's something that nobody should have to continue to struggle with throughout their adulthood. Like, a teenager is always going to hate themselves at some point.
It's part of being teenager.
It's a part of being a teenager, and it's part of the fluxing hormones.
Ruby. Sorry.
But a teenager should never... But once you grow out of that, once you're not a teenager anymore, and you're an adult, and your hormones are leveling out, you should never continue to hate yourself, and you should never continue to question yourself.
I mean, to a certain extent.
No, like, question yourself, like, who you are. Like, not your beliefs or anything like that, and, like, the core of who you are. You should never have that insecurity.
Yeah, okay. I can see what you're saying there.
So, but that's the sort of damage that communities like this do.
Oh, yeah.
They destroy you.
Because the thing is with the community is that they expect you to be you have to be perfect, because you are made in God's image, and God is therefore perfect. If you are not perfect, you are a sin. You are doing injustice to His name.
Then He shouldn't have fucking made me messed up and backwards.
Look what you've done. The monkey has anxiety.
Going back to what you were saying about being born a sinner. Going back to that, I think a lot of it has to do with exactly Trin's point, is God is perfect. God is everything. So, like, I think the fact that when you're born, you cry, that's not a godly thing.
But it's natural. Like,
I know.
Wait,
But I mean, then that goes back to your point of, like, it not being made sense of in, like, the Bible. Jesus cried.
Like,
when He became immortal, Jesus cried. He cried on the cross. He cried for God.
yeah, but
So,
it's also said that when
that doesn't make sense to me. So then, is He not sinning?
But, like, I think there's something, like, there's something that they believe that the act of being born you shouldn't cry at. Because in the manger story, when God is born, he didn't make a sound.
Which is fucked up, because every play that you see, whenever Jesus is about to come out, you hear the baby cry.
Yeah. I don't know. So I think it's something, I don't know why they would believe that in that instance, oh, it's a sin to cry.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also a...
I'm sorry, you got squished through a vagina. Your head literally gets morphed in order to fit through.
At one point, it was a sin for women to take any painkillers when giving birth. It's because it was our fault for having sex. Because it's not like the fucking human race needed to continue to procreate.
Yep. So, that's a brief history of my life. And in 2010, a year after I'd graduated, I found out that what I was feeling was called being transgender, and that it wasn't weird, it wasn't normal, it wasn't crazy. There was a lot of people out there, and holy shit, did my world just open up.
Mm-hmm.
But it was probably still like three or so years, I think, before I told my parents, and that was a shitstorm. And there's been a lot of argument with my parents about religion, because when I started to just be like, yeah, I don't believe in this anymore, they're like, well, you live under our roof, so you still have to come to church on Sundays.
Oh, God, Lord, I hated that.
Right?
Dude, it has affected so much that any time that I perceive someone is talking to me like a priestess, like they're preaching at me, I immediately shut down. I'm like, that's it, nope. You're not listening, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm off somewhere else.
Yeah.
1,000-yard days, just...
Like, I am no longer here. I am fucking an alien on planet Zuh.
Take me with you.
Yeah. So, now that my rant is done, and we've gone over the brief history of why I dislike religion and how it has affected me, and I'm almost I'm getting close to the bottom of my beer. Now I'm gonna, like, you guys, do you have any questions about, like, anything about my story, or just anything to ask in general?
Was there ever a point where you questioned your right to feel the way you do now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, like, when I started to defact from religion, when I started to back away from Christianity and everything, I grew up believing in God so much that I still sat there and I was just like, I still felt like it was wrong.
Yeah.
I still felt like I needed to, like, just default to what I always did, which was sit down, cry, rock myself back and forth, and beg for forgiveness. Even though I'd done nothing.
Which is kind of a fucked up, response.
Mm-hmm. Like, I still felt like I had to break down. Like, that I wasn't owed anything, that I had to fight so hard against this stupid instinct to basically flog myself.
Yeah.
Like, mentally flog myself.
Right.
I had to fight against that. I had to fight against mentally beating myself up. Which is fucked up. So yeah, there was always a strong desire for a little while to go back until I started to finally actually be like, no, like, this is better. I actually hate myself less. Like, it feels good to not hate myself. Shocker.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah.
Tell me about it, because I have no idea what that feels like.
Oh no, I still hate myself. I just hate myself less.
Those are two evils.
Yup. So, you were gonna ask something?
No, I was just gonna say most of my questions were asked during you asking, like, you telling the story. I have no patience of that because, like, the problem with that...
What advice would you give to someone who's living in what used to be your shoes in a very strict religious community who has these different feelings and different ideas about themselves? And as far as their sexual orientation goes, what would your advice to them be?
My advice would honestly be get yourself a job, pack away as much money as you can, and the second you can, get the fuck out.
I was just thinking that. I was like, get out as soon as you can.
Like, honestly. Like, get a job, work for maybe a year, like, bear it for a year while you pack away money, and get the fuck out.
Yeah, it's...
And don't look back. Don't turn back. Like, I moved out to Vancouver, and it causes me such bad anxiety attacks to think that I might reach a point where I have to move back.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that in itself is probably a whole other story for me of just the whole... If I didn't leave Saskatchewan, I would not be alive.
Right.
And as much as anybody might think that I'm not serious...
Oh no, I totally...
I'm dead serious. I have a whole story of literally the day that I planned to commit suicide.
Okay,
Oh,
one
I
sec.
totally
My
get
dog
that.
is trying to break my house. I will be right back.
Which Diamond?
Probably Ruby again.
Ruby.
Ruby's the asshole. Diamond's the sweetheart.
Really? Didn't, like, Diamond, like, piss on her carpet, though? On their carpet?
I don't know. What's
Diamond
going
peed on my blanket. That's
Yeah.
not as bad. Ruby is straight up trying to break my house.
on. I can clean up pee. I can't replace 10,000 broken objects.
And you know the thing is, I totally believe you. I totally believe you about how far your parents can push you, especially when it comes to just like you're not accepting who you are.
Yeah.
Because I went through the same thing, and I can easily say that if I hadn't gone to college and met my friends there, I would not be sitting here where I am right now.
Yeah.
Because part of the truth is our parents are humans, and some parents are, or some people aren't meant to be parents, and that is the awful truth.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you were one of those people and you are pregnant, please get an abortion. Your child does not deserve that fate.
Noodle.
Like, I wouldn't go outward and I wouldn't personally be outward telling people to go get an abortion. My first recommendation is still always adoption. Put your kid up for adoption. But because I always think that I always believe that an abortion should not be that kid should always be given a chance to live. Yes, I am pro-choice. But then I also believe that it comes down to it's the mom's decision. If she doesn't want a kid,
Yes.
then abortion. But if your sole purpose is of a very, very you're having an abortion for the whole purpose of not even giving this kid a chance, I think that that's wrong.
Yeah, but
I get it that adoption can be fucked up
yeah.
and being in the system can be
Yep.
fucked up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you put a baby up for adoption, the
They're more
likelihood that the likelihood that they'll be adopted is very high. Like, a baby is not likely to grow up in the system. They're likely to be adopted young before they are even known, before they would even know.
My only counter to this, just because we're not going to open this fucking can of worms at, this point in the episode, is the fact that, well, to me personally, it's just that, well, if they don't adopt that baby, then at least there's a chance that they might adopt another child that isn't necessarily a baby, and might have given that chance.
Yeah, for me personally, if I ever actually do adoption, I'm going to do an older kid.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I do encourage that as well, but at the same time, it's far better to put a baby up for adoption than it is to put a kid up for adoption.
Yeah, and
I still think that at all possible, that fetus should be given the chance to have a life. But if you don't want the kid, by all means, you're allowed to have an abortion.
Hold on, give me a second, sorry.
So...
And you can hear something, that's because my phone's fucking vibrating the hell out. Which is weird, because that never happens. Of course, when I don't want it, people are just like, "You're paying attention to me!" I'm like, fuck, I'm doing something right now.
Yeah. But, no, so, like, anyways, we've said our points. Yeah. So, yeah, that would be my only thing, is just outright, just... But I guess that's just me being more kind, just being like, no, I don't want to call somebody that shitty of a mom that just be like, you don't deserve to even try.
Yeah.
So...
It's also, you know, we've also experienced things in life in different ways, so...
Yeah, like, were my parents good? No. Were they horrible? No. They were... Depending on the situation, I think it overall balances out to average. Average parents.
Which is kind of fucked up on, like, another level of that being, of that as being average.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love my mom, and I still absolutely love my dad, and I still talk to them regularly, but I don't know. I also can sit here and just be like, yo, I wanted to die, and you weren't even gonna put me in counseling. The fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
Noodles.
Alright, are you eating noodles, or, like, what's with the noodles?
Oh, she's gone.
Oh,
there she is. She's back.
They left the voice chat.
So, that didn't... Okay, so what's with the noodles?
What?
What's with the noodles?
It's what I say when things get, like, when I don't know what to say, I'll just some random word. Like,
fair enough.
I'll say, like, my word used to be tacos, now it's noodles.
It's
like
always
something to do with food.
Is it like your safe word for awkward silences?
Yes, it's my BDSM safe word. Noodles!
Can your next safe word be chimichangas?
Yes.
Yes.
No chimichangas, because Deadpool 2 is coming out soon.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I don't even know what a chimichanga is, I'm gonna be honest.
I keep mixing up chimichangas and churros.
Oh.
So I don't know what they are.
Oh my god, churros, yum.
Right? The churros with the peony, so good. Especially the ones with the mini donuts.
Cinnamon sugar.
Yes!
Deep fried cinnamon sugar.
Fuck, I think when the summer comes, I'm just gonna go to the peony just so I can open, like, get a fucking mini donuts.
Literally, all you have to do to make a churro type thing is take white bread, all it up, deep fry it, and then put cinnamon and white sugar on top of it.
Okay, but I'm a pussy when it comes to deep frying shit.
Am I just gonna end up titling this episode LGBT issues plus churros?
But this happens, like, I can honestly see this a pattern where we have, like, the first, like, 80, 85, or 70% of the episode is, like, serious and thing, and then, like, this, like, the
and then it just evolves into shit. That happened last time, too.
Yeah.
We just evolved into talking about burgers. And this time it's about churros.
It's food.
It's always going to be food related.
Food. Yeah,
my grandpa's getting close to 90, and he still drives and works on the farm. Like, he ain't slowing down anytime soon.
Man, I was trying to tie into the whole, like, stereotype of old Asian people. Like, Asian people never die, we just get smaller. But, like, I didn't know how to, like, tie it in.
You just get smaller. My grandma is getting really short, actually.
Which is weird. I guess it's because, like, the cartilage between your bones is, like...
Yeah, like, everything compresses.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I always wondered how you can actually shorten in age. I'm like, what the fuck?
She's getting really short. Like, she's always been shorter than me. Except when I was, like, a little kid, of course. But, like, she's getting really short. She's, like, pretty much just over my shoulder now. Last time I saw her, I was like, oh, Grandma. Which was fun. The last time I saw her, it was, like, when I came out to them, and I haven't heard back from them since, so for all I know, my grandparents still hate me. Or for all I know, like, they were still, like, did the whole, like, nice support of, like, oh, we still love you, blah, 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 of course.
What is he talking about?
But, like, my grandpa was a little bit miffed, but everybody in the family seems to think that he was miffed because everybody knew and nobody told them.
Yeah, I can see him being a little bit miffed about that.
Not that he's mad about my choice, just mad that we didn't trust him to tell him.
Like, none of you motherfuckers could have filled me in, huh? Not one of you?
Yeah, because, like, I explained to them, literally the entire family knows. It's just that
That's probably not a good way to go about it.
No, like, I wanted to explain to them, like, who knew and who didn't. Kind of thing, and I was just like, literally everybody knows, just everybody's always been telling me not to tell you guys, and finally I have a moment where I'm seeing you guys, where nobody else is around to stop me. So I think he's just mad that everybody was telling me to not do it.
So if that would be the case, he wouldn't be mad at you, he'd be mad at everyone else.
Yeah, he's not mad at me. Like, he still gave me a hug, and he still said he loved me and everything, but he's like, I think he's frustrated and a little bit miffed at, like, at maybe my parents.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, because, like, my mom didn't even want me to tell him. My mom was just like, oh, just let them die without knowing. I'm like,
oh my gosh, your mom.
Mom, I don't want that. I want my grandparents to know. I want my grandparents to love me. And the fact that Grandpa still works on the farm and he's getting close to being 90, like,
you know,
I don't want to show up one time at a family reunion and just be like, hey! And have, like, a beard and a mustache and them not know who the fuck I am all of a sudden.
I just think of that episode, it's just the future, and it just turned from Family Guy, and it's just Meg who turns out she has a sex change.
Right? Oh. But, at this point, it's 11/11. For anybody that doesn't know, 11/11 is, I mean, like, there's a classic, it's the time to make a wish, blah, 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 because it's 1111. But it's also, after my grandma on my dad's side passed away, my oldest sister, told me something that, she asked Grandma to give her a sign that she was looking out for us.
Oh.
And she told me, she's just like, ever since I asked for that, she's like, almost every single day whenever I look at the clock, it says 11:11. So, whenever I see 11:11, I sit there and I'm like, hi, Grandma!
Oh, that's so sweet.
Oh, that's so cute.
Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in again this week to our podcast of Sunday Satanists. This has been Nikki.
Trin.
Fatal.
And we'll see you all next week once again for where we will be going over Trin's story of her life with her mom.
Okay, I'm warning you guys, it's gonna be like 100% rambling.
That's okay, that's what most of mine was too.
Yours was still coherent, as in, like, it went through a timeline. I'm gonna be jumping all over the place.
It's fine.
Oh,
We'll try it. We'll make it through. So we'll see you all next week for that. Until then, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
A few seconds of silence, and then let's close it out.
Should we not say goodbye to them first?
A few seconds
Yeah,
of silence.
like, fuck you all, bye.
No, listen, guys. Listen to what I'm saying. A few seconds of silence, and then let's close it out.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant close it out as in just turn it all off.
No! As in say goodbye.